Today I want to show you how I painted these beautiful blue eyes on this Ragdoll Cat. I'm starting with a color by Holbein called Phthalo Blue and just painting on the inside of the eyes, just avoiding the pupils. This next blue color is called Turquoise Blue, and I'm watering it down a little bit and just painting that all in the inside of the eye. You'll notice I'm blending it in with that Phthalo Blue and then adding just a hint of green in the corner. In this image, our cat is outside, and so we want the eyes to reflect some of that bright green that we see in the background. I'm grabbing little hints of yellow again to add a greenish hue on the left side of the eye. And then just pulling that turquoise blue under and around and spreading out the color all around the eye. I think in order for an eye to have depth and richness and volume, it needs to have a variety of colors within it. For the other eye, I'm starting the same way. I'm just taking my Phthalo Blue, which is almost a periwinkle blue, and painting it around the pupil of the eye, and then taking some watered down turquoise blue, this is another color by Holbein, and painting all around the inside of the eye. You can see my painting looks kind of ugly right now. I think every painting goes through an ugly phase, and this painting went through so many ugly phases. I had to really push myself to finish, and I was glad I did. But painting in the eyes sure does help. You'll notice I'm avoiding a couple of little highlights. There's a highlight on the left eye on the far left, and on the right eye there's one just above the pupil, but it's not completely white. Right now it just looks like a light green above the pupil. I let that blue dry before I come back and paint some more details. I think during this drying period I worked on the ears some more, and I painted some fur texture. Because watercolor dries so fast, you can move into other sections while you wait for certain areas to dry, and then you can come back at them without having to leave your painting at all. Now that the blue in the eyes is dry, I can come back and paint some black details. I'm just using pure lamp black to paint in the dark shadow shape above the right eye. I'm using my size 2 Escoda round brush. You will definitely need a very small round brush for these details. I'm just carefully coloring in my pencil marks indicating the shadow shape and the rim of the eye. It's pretty amazing how these dark details can really make it start to look realistic. Around the edge of the eye, it's important to add fur details so that the eye looks like it's part of the face and not just something that's been cut out and pasted on. I'm going to go ahead and paint in the black pupil, since I have black on my brush already. And on a cat, the pupil is shaped it's very narrow, almost like a tall skinny oval with pointy tops and bottoms, and the top of the pupil is hidden under that highlight. I'm painting some shadows of the fur that's overlapping the eye into the highlight. I'm now taking some watered down ultramarine, and there's still a little bit of black on my brush, and mixing that up on my palette. So it's sort of a murky deep blue, and I'm using that to paint around the iris and to add some more shadow details in the eye. When you see me grabbing my brush over to the right, I'm either dipping it in water or dabbing it on the paper towel just to calm the color down a little bit and to control how much water is in my brush. If you have too much water on your brush, it's going to be out of control and you won't be able to control where the paint goes. So you can see this dark blue is adding some texture and detail inside of the eyeball. And I'm also using that to pull up some fur detail up above the eye. Now that the dark blue is painted in, you can see the highlight. It makes it look so shiny and real. It's important to outline the eye with colors and textures that are close to your image so that it looks realistic and furry. And to make the eye look round, you have to add shadows in the corners and the inside and under the eyelid. I'm using my dark blue and my dark brown to create these shadows. Dabbing it in water and then blending it out a little bit lighter. There should be no harsh edges in the inside of the blue part of the eye. Taking some indigo on my brush and again pulling out some paint downward and away from the eye. You always want to look at the fur in your photo and see what direction the fur is growing and make your brush strokes match that shape. I'm now moving on to the left eye. I'm starting on the far left upper corner of the eye, again with my lamp black, painting in that deep dark shadow that's outlining the eye shape for me. I'm being careful to avoid that highlight on the far left side, which you can see is still showing the paper white underneath. While I'm up there, I add a little bit of fur detail, again, so that the eye looks like it's part of the face of the cat and not just pasted on. You can see before finishing the left eye, I decided to add some shadows and a richer pigment of color in between the two eyes, just so that they look inset and in the shadow, indicating the shape of the skull. And now I'm grabbing some more lamp black and continuing to paint the rim or the outside of the eye shape. Painting with the finest line possible and then outlining that with another shape that mirrors it in parallel motion. You can see the outline of the eye is not just one line, but sometimes two, creating a little bit more fur texture above the eye and then painting in the pupil with black. Again, it's that tall, skinny, oval shape. I'm now grabbing my Ultramarine, mixing it with a little of the black that's still on my brush, and I'm going to paint in the shadow. If you want blue eyes to look realistic, don't just stick with a single color of blue. Look for the variety in your reference photo and try to match that. I'm now using a little bit of Phthalo Blue, which is a brilliant blue, almost like a Mediterranean blue. It's a little bit cooler, has a little more green in it. And then I'm grabbing some more of my dark ultramarine and pulling some color out away from the pupil of the eye, creating some of those little striations you usually see in an eye. You'll notice I'm painting this eye slightly different than the right eye, and that's because the two eyes are just catching the light and creating shadows a little differently. They're not exactly going to be the same. In the corner of the eye, there's definitely a pinkish color, so I'm taking some alizarin crimson and just painting in that little hint of pink in the corner, just deepening my shadow underneath the eyelid. If you really want to make eyes look convincing, realistic, moist, you need to make sure that you have a highlight and dark enough shadows. Really, to make anything look real, creating convincing lights and darks is going to be the key. So I'm just continuing to outline the eye with dark colors, dark brown, dark gray, and this will help it look like the eye is inset, slightly sunken into the skull. And I'm just darkening up a little bit beneath that highlight so it pops even more. If you want something to look real, just really study your reference photo. I'm constantly glancing back and forth between my photo and my painting and trying to match the colors, the values especially of what I see. I'm just making that pupil a little bit darker and pulling it up a little higher into the eye, letting it touch the shadow at the top. And I think that's a little more well balanced with the right eye. And with that, I think the eyes are done. You can see this entire painting on my website. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to paint these cat's eyes. If you want to learn more about painting realistic animals, check out these videos, and I'll see you in the next one.